Every year, the world as economists notice a mathematical paradox. If you add up all the debt and all the wealth on the planet, the numbers don't balance. It appears on paper that the Earth is in debt to itself. But the money hasn't vanished into space. It has migrated to a place that doesn't appear on any map. I call it Moneyland, a borderless virtual nation-state, where the laws of your home country simply stop applying if you are rich enough to buy your way in. From Panamanian shell companies to trusts in Nevada, we are witnessing the rise of a shadow reality that is draining the lifeblood of modern democracies. Today, we pull back the curtain on the one-way mirror of global finance to see who really owns the world. To understand the invisible nation, we must go back to the moment the modern world tried to prevent it. In 1944, at the Bretton Woods Conference, Allied leaders attempted to build a financial architecture where the fio da vida economica, the thread of economic life, was inseparably woven into the fabric of the nation-state. Their goal was to keep capital pinned down so that democratic governments could tax it and use it for the public good. But the dream of Bretton Woods was essentially euthanized by its own creators. In the 1950s and 60s, clever bankers in the City of London discovered a loophole, the eurodollar. They realized that if a dollar was held in a bank account outside the United States, it existed in a legal limbo. It was physically in London, but legally offshore, conducted outside the jurisdiction of any government. This concept of offshore is the DNA of Moneyland. This wasn't just a technical adjustment. It was a magic teleportation box for cash. For the first time, a person could obtain money, hide it, and spend it perpetually without the government ever being able to see all three steps at once. As the digital revolution accelerated, these escape cars for cash became a tsunami of money that now threatens to overwhelm the institutional traditions of even the oldest democracies. Today, Moneyland is composed of thousands of these overlapping layers. It is a world where 8% of global private wealth, roughly $13 trillion, is held in the secrecy world. It is a system designed to make the wealthy inescrutable, unscribable, and untouchable by the law. If Moneyland is a country, then the law firm Mossack Fonseca was once its primary embassy. Founded by Jürgen Mossack and Ramon Fonseca, this firm became the McDonald's of secrecy, flooding the planet with over 210,000 anonymous companies. Their business model was a volume play: hatch chickens in Panama and collect an annual fee. These chickens were empty corporate shells that could hold bank accounts, buy mansions, or move millions with almost zero transparency. Inside the firm, low-paid employees served as nominee directors, signing thousands of blank forms that were then filled in by the true owners to conduct secret business. The firm's founders viewed themselves not as criminals, but as visionaries, providing a human right to privacy. They argued that their clients were good people who have done one bad thing, or individuals simply looking to protect their assets from frivolous lawsuits and covetous relatives. However, the evidence-based reality revealed by the Panama Papers was far less noble. The firm's structures were used by a formidable pack of actors, including drug traffickers like Rafael Caro Quintero, associates of Vladimir Putin, and the children of the Chinese communist elite known as princelings. The firm effectively rented sovereignty from small islands like Niue and Nevada, exploiting legal discrepancies to ensure that the gold always stays where it's protected. In Moneyland, if a law is inconvenient, you don't campaign to change it. You simply move your assets to a jurisdiction where that law doesn't exist. The secrecy world does not exist in a vacuum. It is powered by a class of Western professionals called facilitators, lawyers, accountants, and bankers who earn high fees to disembargo, untangle dirty money. In 2016, a global witness sting operation in New York exposed the rot. An undercover investigator approached 13 law firms, posing as a consultant for an African official with suspicious funds. Out of the 13 firms, only one refused the business immediately. The others, including a former president of the American Bar Association, suggested using anonymous structures and layered LLCs to move the money without being caught. This creates what legal scholar Frank Pasquale calls the one-way mirror. The citizens of Moneyland can see out into our economies, buying our real estate in New York, Los Angeles, and London, and bidding up prices for everyone else, but the laws of our nations cannot see into their vaults. While the Black Box Society uses algorithms and big data to track every purchase and social interaction of the average person, the global banksters use that same technology to stay invisible. This has led to the rise of the plutonomy, a term coined by Citigroup analysts to describe an economy where the rich are the only consumers who matter, and the rest of society is increasingly marginal. In a plutonomy, economic policy is no longer about sustainable growth for all. It is about binging to bling, focusing on exclusive services for the ultra-rich who feel more allegiance to their fellow plutons in Moneyland than to their own countrymen. If the architecture of Moneyland is the shell company, its primary shield is the kick and shit club. This is the term used to describe a U.S. Department of Justice that, over the last 2 decades, has become too afraid to prosecute top corporate executives. After the 2002 collapse of Arthur Andersen, which saw 20,000 people lose their jobs because of an indictment, a dangerous precedent took hold: the fear of systemic risk. Prosecutors were told that indicting a giant bank like HSBC could take down the global economy. Consequently, the government defaulted to deferred prosecution agreements, DPAs. The bank pays a fine, promises to change its culture, and no individual executive goes to jail. These fines are often just a cost of doing business, a small toll booth on the bankster turnpike. As a result, in 81% of cases brought against the top 10 Wall Street banks since 2009, the government failed to even identify the individual employees responsible for the crime. This culture of impunity essentially grants corporate officers a perquisite not seen since the Gilded Age: the ability to commit crimes without personal consequences. This is not a conspiracy managed by a single villain. It is the natural result of the formiguero, the anthill. When the incentives for lawyers and prosecutors are tied to the revolving door leading to high-paying jobs at the very firms they are supposed to police, the dance of the investigation almost always ends in a quiet settlement. The implications of Moneyland go far beyond tax revenue. It is a force multiplier for the enemies of the liberal order. For autocrats like Vladimir Putin, the secrecy world is a Rosetta Stone that allows his inner circle to infiltrate the West. The laundromat schemes revealed how $20 billion of Russian money was moved through small banks in the Baltics, and Cyprus eventually cleaning itself through the global financial system. While the West uses the secrecy world to help its corporations avoid taxes, Russia uses it to subvert the democratic process by hiding dark money behind elaborate corporate structures. We see this most clearly in the story of Paul Manafort. He was a technician of Moneyland, using shell companies in Cyprus and St. Vincent to disembargo stolen wealth for the Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. This is the secrecy world entering the White House, a system where the invisible man can fund political movements while remaining entirely disconnected from accountability. The feedback loop is nefarious. The more wealth that is siphoned into Moneyland, the less is available for schools, infrastructure, and policing in the onshore world. This fuels a politics of resentment and a diseased moral fabric that leads desperate people to turn toward the very tyrants who benefit from the system in the first place. We stand today at a historic crossroads. We can continue to live in a black box society, where we are watched by everyone but see nothing of the powerful, or we can fight for an intelligible society. The first step is to illuminate the dark matter. Recent initiatives like the Foreign Account Tax, Compliance Act, FATCA, and the Common Recording Standard, CRS, have begun to punch holes in the walls of bank secrecy. In places like Iceland, the exposure of the Panama Papers led to the resignation of a prime minister and a massive national protest. These are success stories that show the power of transparency. But the challenge remains structural. As long as the revolving door continues to turn, and as long as our legal system remains a chicken shit club, the citizens of Moneyland will simply move the gold to the next jurisdiction. We must ask ourselves, is our definition of privacy being used to protect our individual rights, or to protect the impunity of boardroom criminals? Until we force the invisible nation into the light, we are merely tenants in a world owned by the few who can afford to be invisible. You have seen the shadows. Now, the question is, will you demand the light?